Hi loves, it's me, Carrie. If this is your first time here, welcome. If you are returning and you're already part of the family, then nice to see you. So if you watched my attempt at reading last month, you'll see that I actually was unable. Sorry, my computer's giving me messages here. Oh well. What I found is that this prolonged stress has just been quite it really inhibits my intuition, my thought process, my ability to flow, and I just couldn't do the reading. So I'm going to do my best this time, no matter what comes out of my mouth. I'm just going to lay the cards out because I feel like this is a really critical time in what we're all going through, and I feel like in the beginning, I don't know if you can relate to this, but when this virus first started, and I won't dwell too much on that because I think we're all thinking about it enough already. But what I found is that I was kind of kicked into being hyper vigilant, and I was, planting food, and I was keeping food scraps to regrow new ones. And I was, really like almost militant about everything. And it really kind of felt a lot better than where I'm at now. I'm kind of like sinking into it, and I'm sort of not complacent because I understand how important everything is right now and how bad it is in some areas. But I've kind of lost that like drive to adapt my surroundings. And I've kind of sunk into the cabin fever and into the just the blah of all of it. So I know that with this moon phase, like right now we're in the full moon in Scorpio, and I don't, like I said, I'm not a specialist in astrology, but I know that we have several planets going retrograde, and there's going to be a period of a lot of revisiting old pain and a lot of releasing. So I think this is going to be a critical time for all of us to, as we're doing this, because I think we're going to be prompted to do it no matter what. There's going to be things that'll pop up that will kind of sting. And what I invite you to do as best you can, and it's not always easy, and if you're not in a state that you feel comfortable kind of looking at those wounds, then give yourself as much space and be as gentle as you can. But when you do look at these things, when we look at how we respond to these situations, and some of us have become really productive and have just really amazed ourselves with that kind of expansion. A lot of us are contracting. A lot of us are going back to old thought patterns, and I put myself in that because I've been quite surprised at how quickly I retreated into old unhelpful patterns. And it's what I've tried to do, and what I encourage you to do as best you can, is just be curious. Just look at that like, okay, I see that this has prompted me into old patterns that I've done my best to leave behind. Now I know. Or you get triggered by something and you think, okay, whoa, that really spawned a response in me. I wonder where does that come from? And try to be like curious about it, almost like in a childlike way, like just, wow, that was really powerful. I wonder, and try your best to, as we're going through these things and learning more about ourselves, and as we're kind of dredging up old wounds and deciding what to let go of, just continue to be curious and sort of shelf guilt and shame as best you can. Like put them aside. If you feel them creeping in, just nope, and just put up a boundary there, because we can learn so much about ourselves when we just look at it really open-eyed and like without letting all of the narratives that we've been forced into come into the equation, because it really shuts down any learning that we can garnish from that rich experience where we are full body trigger, or really repulsed by something. It's this strong reaction that's our body trying to tell us something. And so often we just think, oh my God, why did I respond that way? And we start berating ourselves and fully miss that there was actually a really rich some really rich dialogue there. So I'm going to do my best with the reading. As I stated in the newsletter, my thoughts are kind of all over the map. They're not much better than they were last time I tried this, but this time I'm just going to get the messages out as best I can. So thank you for bearing with me and my scatteredness. And I hope this will be helpful for all of us. So I'm going to, if you haven't seen one of these before, what I'm going to do is pull a card for each one of the next 4 weeks in this moon cycle, just to get a sense of the energy around that week. And then I'll pull a meditation card that's sort of something that will be helpful to look at throughout the whole month. So, the weather's weird today too. It's sunny and stormy, and it's really quite wonderful. Okay, let's see. So this card, I had to write down the dates because I can never memorize them. This will be from May 7th, today, the full moon, until the 14th. So for this week, we are looking at, oh, lovely, the Tower reversed. That is so ironic because last week, if you didn't see it, when I couldn't read the cards and but I'd had this nagging feeling to talk about the tower all day before that recording came up. So I ended up just talking about the tower. We've got it in reverse today. And it's actually, that is almost exactly what I was saying about that feeling of how I was trying to sink into that feeling rather than in the beginning having that drive to like fix things and figure out how to repair. The tower, if we look at it, just in case you didn't see that, the tower is a card that I have actually come to learn is a really good ally for us. Can be a kind of scary card to look at no matter which deck you're using. The standard imagery is lightning hitting the tower, people jumping to their death, the tower crumbling. However, the important thing to remember with the tower, whether it's reversed or upright, is that it's only going to break down structures that are not sound, structures that were not built properly to begin with. That could be relationships. It could be anything that was not built on a solid foundation, friendships, thought patterns, behaviors, anything. The tower comes in, and I guess the reason there can be fear around it is because it's not gentle with its messages. It doesn't come in and kind of tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, by the way, you're self-sabotaging, or, it comes in and it just like, have you ever seen one of those videos where people pull the tablecloth and all the stuff stays on the table? Like all the plates and stuff. The tower does that, only the plates go flying. Like there's no grace. It just kind of comes in and boom, here you go. And I think that's what we've all been thrown into, which is why I talked about the tower last week. In reverse, there's that it kind of corrupts the energy slightly. So what's happened is we've had our foundation exposed. We've kind of experienced that jarring, like, whoa, and forced to rebuild in one way or another. And because it's reversed, we're kind of stuck there. Like with the tower upright, you kind of get that, and then you think, okay, I'm going to start, rebuilding the foundation. But I think we're kind of all almost in a holding pattern. Like we recognize that what we thought was our absolute truth, or our absolute, what was true for us, has been kind of shattered. Now we're sort of waiting, like, okay, what do we do now? So I'm kind of interested how the rest of the cards play out. If it doesn't help explain it, I'm going to pull an advice card for that, because it is kind of a miserable place to be when you're sort of, but it's also, I think, important to be there. It's almost like when we look at other cards that are around loss and that kind of thing, we have a tendency to want to push on. And I think that's what I've been feeling, is that, okay, now what do I do now? How can I fix things now? And it could be that now is just a time to kind of, like I was saying about looking at it with curiosity, kind of like that, like look at, okay, whoa, like I really believed that this had been built in a much more solid way. And that's our entire world has just experienced this, our earth, our communities, our economy, everything. So maybe what it's saying for this week, because there's so much planetary stuff going on, is just sit with it. Just recognize that, yeah, okay, so now we're back to the drawing board. But you don't have to rush into rebuilding. Maybe you just spend some time looking at that foundation and really maybe even like take joy in it. Maybe even look at that foundation as like, wow, I had this here all along, and I almost forgot because I had built myself so far away from it. I forgot about the people and the supports that I actually have, and just really take joy in that before you start rebuilding. Just take a minute to look at that beautiful foundation, what remains standing with all of that chaos, and just love it. Just yeah, that's what I would say. So that's May 7th to 14th. Let's look at May 14th to the 21st. Okay, you know what? I had a feeling this one was going to come up. This is Five of Cups. So that this energy, this everything that's coming up with looking at old hurts and stuff like that, this is the card for it. So with the fives are always kind of a catalyst for change. So they're really important, because when we look at the fours that come before them, there's this rest period and kind of a comfort, and we can really get stuck there. So the fives kind of come along and nudge us out of that, not always in the nicest way, like the tower. So I think that it's almost like I'm looking at this already, like it's almost looking like the grieving process. In the tower, we've lost our structure that we had counted on. The Five of Cups, we're grieving what we don't want to take forward with us. So the cups are our emotional realm. They're our heart, our loves, our relationship, our family, anything that really kind of that you feel in your heart center. And the Five of Cups is about doing kind of an emotional decluttering and recognizing the things that you don't want to take forward when you rebuild. So with this card specifically, I tend to think about how we hold on to pain from our past, and we really hold that pain close because we're afraid if we don't, we're going to, fall victim to the same kind of lesson again. But we will always hold on to the lesson, that the truth that we received, the lesson that we received from whatever heartache or whatever painful, it could be abuse, it could be, any kind of trauma. You won't forget that lesson. You can let go of the pain. You can let go of that loop reel of reliving it over and over again without losing what's important to hold on to. So don't be afraid to, especially because the card always has some sort of flowing water. And you'll notice this individual has 2 cups waiting when they're ready. So this releasing ceremony idea, just really like honoring that, like, okay, thank you so much, no matter how horrible it was. And I promise you, I can relate. Thank you for giving me this lesson, but I'm going to let you go now. And let go of just replaying it over and over again, because that just, it doesn't have a lot of value, and it can really be, it can really have a weight that you take forward with you. That's May 14th to 21st. After going through that whole tower, looking at your foundation, looking at what has stood there for you when everything else fell, then let go of, okay, I'm going to rebuild this now. I'm going to start rebuilding, but there's things that didn't work the first time that I don't want to do again, if that makes sense. So that's the 5 of Cups. And don't rush that either. Like the 5 of Cups has a bit of grief in it and a little bit of sorrow, and it's okay. Like you don't have to put a Band-Aid on it. You don't have to smile for your friends and say it's okay. You do what you need to do to move through that process, and just honor yourself and honor the healing you need to do, and don't rush yourself. Obviously if it gets to the point where you need help, then reach out for help. But if you're managing it okay, but you just have to sit with it. It's never easy to let things go, whether it's good things, bad things. It's always there's a little bit of a grieving process, even with really good things. Like I often say that was the one thing I wasn't prepared for in motherhood, is that you want your children to move on to the next stage of their life so bad. You're so excited to see them walk or write or speak. And then when they do, you get this kind of like pain that, okay, but now that means I'm not going to do this anymore. Like now they're walking, I probably won't see them crawl again. And life is kind of like that. It's like things can get better and you can still grieve for what's moving away. So that's what I have to say about that. This will be May 21st to the 28th. Ah, very nice. Queen of Wands. Actually, this is so cool because I'm going to be attaching my blog post that I just did about the Queen of Wands, because I just finished that one. This is an amazing card, and I find that in this Druidcraft Tarot, she reminds me a lot of the Strength card. Like in the Strength card, we see a woman in other decks sometimes gently closing a lion's mouth with this like strength but grace, and I get that kind of same energy with the Queen of Wands. She's very she has this fiery energy, but it's not invasive. It's like this inner fire and this beauty and sensuality, and she just, and I say she, but again, as always with gender, this could be either, could be anywhere on the spectrum of gender. It's just that I say she because it's a receptive energy more so than the King of Wands, which is more of a active energy, like masculine. So this is a bit more receptive, but this is somebody who, when you walk into a room, if there's, no matter how many people are in there, this is somebody who you notice right away. There's just something about them, and they have a tendency to just be really sexy beyond like what you see physically. They may or may not be attractive by our standardized ideas of what an attractive person looks like, but it doesn't matter. They have like people flocking to them, and it's just this magnetic, fiery, queens have their underlying element is water. So this is a really cool alchemy of getting the fire, the Queen of Wands, which is our ego, our passions, our creativity, all those things that really shine bright inside of us, with that cool, watery adaptability. So it's not somebody who's immovable and impossible to work with because they're so fiery. It's quite the opposite. It's somebody who has that power and has that vibrancy, but also like moves cool like water and is adaptable. And it's just a fascinating combination. She's often known as the Witch of the Tarot because she does, for a lot of different reasons. In this one, we see a regular, kind of like a Maine Coon cat. Sorry, I can tell by the reflection, it's not easy to see that. In the Rider-Waite, we see a black cat. And what was fascinating about that was that the illustrator, Pamela Coleman Smith, was from what I understand, asked to draw a cougar or another animal, and she was determined to do a black cat, which again, looking back on that, that's witches have often been associated with black cats, kind of as her familiar. But so in that week, the third week, we're really gonna, I think that honoring that process we have to go through with the Tower and the Five of Cups is going to bring us to a place where we feel our power again. So it's almost like submitting to this powerlessness in order to get back to where we really feel alive again, to where we really feel that spark again, and all of a sudden we want to create, and whatever that looks like to you. Creativity is, all it is making something from an idea. That could be meals, it could be music, it could be writing, whatever it is to you, interior decorating, the way you dress, whatever it is that makes you feel really alive will come back to you if you give yourself the time and the space to heal for the first couple of weeks. Cool. And I will attach the blog post underneath this so you can read what I wrote about the Queen of Wands as well. Final week is, I don't believe this, but it's going to be May 28th to June 4th. I just don't even know how June is around the corner at all. Okay, Nine of Wands. So Nine of Wands is often the term we think of when we look at this is a bit battle weary. So but nines are just on the cusp of completion. So, when we look at the cards, there's always a journey from the ace to the 10. And the 9 is right at that place sometimes where we feel like we're not sure if what we've been fighting for this whole time is worth it, but we're almost there, right? So if you notice in this particular deck, this person has their arm in a sling. They're, looking pretty weary, I believe. I could be wrong, but in the Rider-Waite deck, I think he might even have two different shoes on, like just basically like, okay, I've had enough now. And I suspect we will feel like that by the end of the month, especially after going through some grieving, standing in our power. But the Nine of Wands is this really incredible card that reminds us how it feels to tap into that last little bit. Like, I've never run a marathon, so I'm going to be hypothetically offering this. How I imagine it must feel in the middle of a hot marathon. You're right, you've got, are they checkpoints? I don't know. You've got your last little, you can see the end line right up ahead, but it's so hot and you're so thirsty and your muscles are cramping, and there's that part of you that just wants to lay down and just give up, but you don't, and you kind of reach in and you find that last little spark and you make it to the finish line. I don't know how I used an athleticism reference there because it's not natural to me. However, it's just that feeling of like when you don't think you have any fight left, but you have to push through. What happens is once you realize you did it, it's kind of, I don't know, it's like this really almost like patting yourself on the back. You're like, whoa, I actually did that. I was pretty sure I wasn't going to be able to make it, but I did. So yeah, I'm not surprised that these cards are such powerful ones, because they are. This month feels very pivotal and like a lot of just a lot of huge energy shifts, which I think is really needed. So if in the last week of this moon cycle you start to feel that way, just know that you're almost there. Whatever it is you're working through, whatever it is that's got you feeling kind of frayed and just a little bit bruised and like you almost feel like you've had enough, just know that if you just hang in there, you've got a nice completion in sight for the next moon cycle. Last card, this will be our meditation card, something to kind of keep close to our chest, a message of some kind for us for this month. Six of Wands. So lots of Wands energy at the end of the month. And this one kind of oversees the whole thing. So with all of this going on, and this is like looking from left to right, it's intense. The sixes kind of bring us back to our center. Oh, I just saw a little chipmunk. Sorry, distracted, like I told you. The sixes bring us back to our center and they bring harmony back. So in this particular one, it's kind of about leadership, mentorship, kind of about leading a team, which in a lot of our cases is probably our household. For anyone who doesn't live alone, we're, kind of in charge of our little pack here. It's kind of like a card where people are going to be looking at what you're doing more than what you're saying, if that makes sense. So with the Six of Wands, we kind of get that you can talk a good game, but the people who are watching you that really want to learn from you, they're going to be looking at your actions. So it kind of puts you in a role of like you're being held up a little bit, and so you have to kind of watch to make sure that you are living proof of what you're trying to encourage them to do. So if you're trying to get your family to eat healthier because you want to keep them healthy for this virus, you need to eat healthy too. like I know it wouldn't fly with my family if I was like, okay, here's your, beautiful wild green salad. I'm just going to sit over here and have some ice cream, like that. We have to, we have to embody what it is we want to share with our loved ones, if that makes sense. Because it will be, this month will be, whoever is listening to this, whoever this message is reaching, there are going to be people looking up to you, whether it's through online or email, however it is you're able to be in contact with people. They're going to really be looking to you. You've got something special inside of you that's got the attention of people, and so they're really watching you to see how you're doing things. So it's a bit of responsibility, but it can also be a really good way to keep our accountability in check. Because I know my son certainly does that to me. He'll call me out. So, but yeah, so keep your harmony, find your way back. If you do find yourself, and it's not always easy to stay harmonious when you are doing that kind of emotional work, but whatever it is that kind of brings you back to your center, that kind of brings that harmony back, try to find time to do it, whatever that is for you, whether it's certain foods, tea, stretching, if you are able to get outside. And I know that some people aren't able to go out into nature right now, and that's makes it really hard, but light a candle, like look at it, spend some time just looking at the flame, like anything that kind of pulls you out of that chaos that you might be feeling and kind of brings back a little bit of flow so that you're not quite so stuck, will be really helpful this month. So yes, it was spicy just like I thought it would, but I was able to do it. I not forced myself. I was committed to looking at the cards and delivering the messages, no matter how scattered or otherwise they were, and I did it. So yes, the next week especially will be challenging. You're going to notice a lot of truths that you might have thought, or things that you thought were a certain way might not be, but just remember that with all of these things, is honesty is a huge gift to you, even if it really sucks to get the news, because you're no longer laboring under false pretense. You're no longer structuring your life around anything that is not your truth, that's not going to be helpful for you. So it's a huge month of growth, and not the easiest one, but tap into that strength. Just look for where you find that the strength to get through, I guess. I'm not going to keep going on because I can see I'm just going to blather because I'm really excited. That's such a neat blend of cards. We've got like water and fire together quite strongly, and I am just so grateful for these messages. And I'm so happy for anybody who stuck around to the 23 minutes of my blabbering. And if you did, I want to mention that I've been working really hard on my course as best I can through all of this. And there's going to be an exciting offer for anyone who's subscribed. So I suspect that'll be coming next newsletter. So hopefully you are around for that. And thank you so much for your time, your attention, for your subscription, like just actually inviting what I have to say into your life. It means a lot. So thank you. And I hope you all have a wonderful moon cycle. And I will see you next month, if not before then.